The gates opened. From Cilaris, they emerged first. Geralith walked like a storm held back by discipline, broad shoulders, controlled breath, eyes lit with that strange, calm fire Cilaris carried. He did not look angry, he looked ready, like a man who had already decided what you were and was waiting for your body to catch up to his conclusion. Beside him came Orionis, tall, poised, terrifying in her stillness. Her dark form carried a quiet elegance, but nothing about her was soft. It was the elegance of a blade that had never needed to announce itself, and behind them, faint, almost invisible unless you looked twice, the air moved, not wind, something else, like thin, translucent strands tasting the world. Cilaris's gift did not arrive with horns or shouting, it arrived like a thought you did not invite. Ashira watched them enter, her face calm, but her eyes were alive. That was her pride. Those were her chosen. Then the Zytheron gate opened, and the temperature of the arena seemed to drop. Corvox stepped out first. He was not merely armored, he looked built, like war had been engineered into him. Heavy plating, dense presence, movements efficient and brutal. Each step landed with weight that made the floating platforms tremble. Then came Zyrath. She moved with a predator's grace, but her body carried the unmistakable stamp of Zytheron, sleek tech integrated into muscle, precision embedded into bone. And there, behind her, arched like a question mark of death, her scorpion tail, segmented, metallic, alive. It hovered with patience, the way a blade hovers when it trusts its own timing. Her eyes burned with controlled heat, less emotion, more focus. Vorian's gaze locked on them. He did not smile, but the smallest shift in his posture said everything. The god of the universe spread his hands. You are watching the Tales of the Savannah. Subscribe and be part of the tribe. Now let's get back to the story.
There are two amongst us who arrived after the gates were opened,
He said evenly.
They have not missed their place.
A soft light swept across the seating of the inner circle.
Jessica Coleman, the Warden of the Eastern Realms.
She stepped forward. The air around her steadied, as if boundaries themselves had been reinforced. She bowed once.
And Rahab, the Keeper of Sacred Balance.
A subtle shift moved through the arena, not sound but recognition, inclined her head in acknowledgement. The inner circle did not cheer. They rose as one, and they bowed. The god of the universe nodded.
You are welcome,
He said.
Let the games continue. Let the arena choose the scene.
The living arena answered. It did not glow like fire this time. It clicked. A deep, intelligent sound, like a lock turning inside the bones of the cosmos. The floor split open in quiet lines, not cracks, perfect seams. Then the ground rose and folded, like geometry learning to breathe. A landscape formed that belonged to neither galaxy and both at once. A labyrinth of obsidian glass and floating platforms suspended in a slow, starlit void. The walls were not walls. They were towering panes of reflective black crystal, so smooth they looked like mirrors. But when you stared too long, you saw your own thoughts move behind your eyes. And between those panes ran thin rivers of light, cold, precise lines like circuitry. Above, the sky was not a sky. It was a spiral of galaxies turning slowly, as if the arena wanted to remind everyone what was at stake. A collective gasp escaped the crowd. Even Amarith leaned in, delighted. Ashira's eyes narrowed, not in fear, but in recognition. This arena wants truth, she murmured, almost to herself. Vorian gave the smallest nod, as if pleased. A measurable environment, he said quietly. Good. The god of the universe's smile widened.
Step forward,
He commanded.
Cilaris versus Zytheron,
He declared.
Mind versus machine, calm versus calculation. May the arena take what it is owed.
Then he leaned back like a king about to watch history.
Begin.
The first clash. It happened fast, not dramatic, not ceremonial, fast. Corvox launched forward the moment the word left the god's mouth, closing distance like a falling wall. Geralith met him, and when they collided, the sound was not a punch, it was stone breaking. The platform beneath their feet fractured in clean lines, and for a second they both skidded, boots grinding, strength testing strength, each of them trying to decide whose power belonged to reality. Corvox's strikes were calculated, direct angles, minimal waste, targeting joints, and balance. Geralith's counters were not wild, they were heavy and clean, as if his body understood leverage without thinking. Corvox drove an elbow toward Geralith's throat. Geralith caught it. Not with panic, with certainty. His fingers clamped down, and Corvox's armor groaned. Corvox didn't flinch. Instead, he pivoted, twisting his own arm against the grip, turning the captured limb into a weapon. A hard headbutt landed against Geralith's brow. Geralith staggered half a step. His eyes remained calm, but something in him sharpened. Across the arena, Orionis moved, and Zyrath watched her, like she was reading a report. Orionis slipped between two reflective panes, becoming a shadow inside a mirror world. Her body vanished, then reappeared at an impossible angle. Zyrath did not chase blindly. Her pupils flickered, tiny, bright micro-movements, scanning, profiling, predicting. Orionis struck first, aiming for Zyrath's ribs with a blade of condensed light. Zyrath's tail snapped, a metallic blur. The tail did not hit Orionis. It hit the air where Orionis was about to be. Orionis stopped short, eyes narrowing. For the first time, a Cillaris warrior looked surprised. Vorian smiled. She predicted the feint. Ashira did not respond. Her eyes stayed on Orionis, because Ashira felt it. She felt Orionis reaching inward. Cillaris did not always need speed. Cillaris needed contact, even a brush, even a thread, even a shadow touching your mind. Orionis exhaled slowly, and the air around her shifted. Those faint, translucent strands thickened, still subtle, still quiet, curling like invisible ribbons around the reflective walls. Zyrath's visor flashed once. She stepped back, tail raised, and then she froze for a fraction of a second, not because she was afraid, because something had entered the edge of her thoughts. A pressure, a suggestion, a memory that was not hers, trying to become hers. The arena's mirrors betrayed it. Zyrath's reflection lagged behind her movement by half a heartbeat, like the mirror was showing not her body, but her mind struggling to stay aligned. Orionis did not speak. She didn't need to. Her presence said, "Look at what you hide." Zyrath's jaw tightened. She made one mistake, one tiny pause. Orionis darted in, blade rising for the neck. Zyrath's tail whipped sideways and struck Orionis's shoulder. Orionis flew back, hit a reflective wall, and the wall rippled like water. She landed, rolled, stood, and smiled, small, cold, because the tail had touched her, and now she had a path. Ashira's fingers loosened slightly. Good. Contact was enough. Now she could take over her mind. Vorian's eyes sharpened. Zyrath did not panic. She did not lash out wildly. She did not scream. Instead, her body did something terrifying. It reset. Her spine straightened. Her breathing slowed. Her gaze went distant, like she had stepped into a colder room inside herself. Zytheron did not fight fear. Zytheron archived it. Zyrath's internal systems flared. Thin lines along her armor, lit briefly, then dimmed. A controlled pulse. A purge. Orionis felt it immediately. The thread she had placed on Zyrath's mind snapped. Not violently, cleanly, like a wire cut with the correct tool. Orionis blinked. For the first time, her calm wavered. Because Zyrath had not merely resisted, she had calculated the intrusion and corrected for it. Zyrath looked at her then, not with anger, with focus, and her tail arced, slow, patient, then struck. Orionis leapt aside, but the tail did not aim for her body. It aimed for the reflective wall behind her. It stabbed the mirror pane, and the pane shattered into a swarm of black glass fragments that didn't fall. They hovered, rotating, reflecting 1,000 versions of Orionis's face, a trap, a maze of mirrors. Orionis suddenly saw herself from every angle, and in that moment she felt it. Zyrath wasn't trying to win by brute force. She was trying to make Orionis's own mind turn against itself. Ashira's lips parted slightly. Clever. Vorian's voice was calm. Control the battlefield. Control the outcome. Meanwhile, Corvox and Geralith were still colliding like continents. Geralith landed a heavy strike that would have folded a lesser warrior. Corvox staggered. Then his armor shifted, plates realigning, absorbing impact, redistributing force. He grabbed Geralith by the forearm and slammed him into the ground so hard the platform dipped. Geralith coughed once, not blood, air. Then he rose again, eyes steady, and whispered something that only Corvox could feel, a pressure against the inside of the skull. Corvox's head tilted a fraction, his systems buzzed, he was being touched. Geralith's mind work had arrived. Corvox's pupils flared with data. For a moment, his movements slowed, and then, like Zyrath, Corvox purged. But Corvox did not purge like a human, he purged like a machine burning out an infection. A sudden surge of light ran through him. His body seized for half a second, then he swung, and the punch landed on Geralith's ribs with a sound like a drum splitting. Geralith stumbled back. His calm remained. But his eyes sharpened now, because Corvox was not mindless. Corvox was protected by design. Celeris had not expected that level of mental and systematic resistance, and that hesitation, just one heartbeat, was enough. Corvox charged. Geralith braced. Corvox feinted left, then hooked right, and drove Geralith toward the edge of the platform where the void waited. Geralith's heel slipped. The crowd gasped. The Savanians screamed. Ashira leaned forward. Vorian did not move. He already knew. Corvox grabbed Geralith's collar and threw him off the platform. Geralith dropped, but he did not fall like prey. His body twisted mid-air, and those invisible Celeres strands flared, catching the edge of the platform like unseen hands. He swung back up, landed hard, and stared at Corvox with new respect. Corvox stared back, unblinking, and then he did something brutal. He stomped on the platform. A shockwave traveled through the circuitry lines. The arena responded because it was alive. The platform beneath Geralith's feet split. Geralith's invisible strands caught, but the ground gave him nothing to anchor to. For the first time, Celeris's calm looked like danger, because calm did not mean safe. It meant controlled. And now the control was slipping. Geralith's connection snapped. For one terrifying second, he was unmoored, not just physically, but mentally. It was the opening Corvox needed. The final blow was not the loudest. It was a precise, piston-driven strike to the center of Geralith's chest, delivered with the exact force calculated to disrupt his nervous system. Geralith collapsed, consciousness fleeing, not from pain, but from systemic shutdown. Meanwhile, Orionis fought through the mirror swarm, her breathing still steady, but her eyes flickering with annoyance. She reached deeper, not into Zyrath, into the arena's reflections. She tried to use the mirror world itself as a corridor into Zyrath's mind. The threads thickened. Zyrath's shoulders tightened. For a moment, the audience saw it. Zyrath's fingers trembled. Orionis had found a crack. Ashira's eyes sharpened. Yes. Now. Orionis stepped forward, and the air behind her shimmered with those pale, invisible mental tendrils. Quiet, elegant, deadly. Zyrath's face tightened. Orionis didn't strike her body. She struck her mind. Zyrath's vision flashed. The arena's sky spiraled too fast. The platforms tilted. The walls whispered with her own thoughts. Orionis's calm voice did not speak in sound. It spoke in certainty. You are not enough. Zyrath's knees bent. You are weak. Her tail drooped, and Orionis moved in to finish. But she made the mistake Celeris sometimes made when they believed too quickly. She thought the mind was already won. She stepped close, and Zyrath's tail, still alive, still patient, snapped upward and wrapped around Orionis's ankle. Orionis gasped. Zyrath yanked. Orionis hit the ground hard, and before Orionis could rise, Zyrath's tail stabbed down, not into flesh, but into the platform beside Orionis's head. Zyrath stood over the shuddering Orionis, her tail poised at her temple. Orionis looked up, her eyes wide, not with defeat, but with horrific understanding. "You did not lose to a stronger mind," Zyrath said, the coldest and most impactful line of the fight. "You lost to a system that adapts to its environment." She withdrew her tail without delivering the final strike. The victory was already absolute. The arena was silent for 3 full heartbeats. Then Zytheron's section delivered their verdict, a single, deafening, synchronized stomp that shook the very bones of the amphitheater. The Savanians were not cheering. They were stunned, mouths agape, trying to process what they'd just seen. The mind, the legendary terrifying weapon of Celeris, had not just been resisted. It had been reverse-engineered and used as a trap. Ashira closed her eyes, absorbing the loss. It was not shame on her face, but the solemn acknowledgement of a paradigm shift. Vorian gave one slow, deliberate nod. His champions had not won a brawl. They had proven a theorem. The god of the universe rose, his grin blazing with fascinated delight.
"The inevitable prevails," he thundered. "Victory to Zytheron."
The message was now carved into the consciousness of every spectator. In this arena, a perfect system could drain an ocean of thought. The rules of the games had just been rewritten. The god of the universe lifted his hands, light rolling off him like a tide.
"Galaxies,"
he said gently, and the sound fell away. Not silence, expectation.
"You have witnessed strength,"
he continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena of the gods.
"You have witnessed discipline. You have witnessed the mind tested and the body broken."
The crowd leaned forward.
"This day is complete."
A ripple passed through the stands, disappointment, relief, hunger for more. Then he smiled.
"But tomorrow,"
he said, and the word alone set hearts racing.
"Tomorrow, we end this."
The arena roared. He spread his arm toward the celestial seat.
"Tomorrow the champions of the celestial seat return."
The crowd exploded. Naraka stood tall, wings unfolding behind him, firelight catching in his mane. The hunter goddess lifted her chin, eyes sharp, breath steady, ready. The celestial seat thundered their approval. The moon goddess clutched her heart, laughing and crying at once. The sun god raised both arms, blazing with pride. The snake goddess was beside herself, clapping, already arguing outcomes with anyone who would listen. Then the god of the universe turned.
"And they will face Zytheron."
A different sound rose this time, harder, colder, precise. Zyrath stood unmoving, visor gleaming, scorpion tail arched like a promise. Corvox crossed his arms, armor humming softly, calculations already running. Vorian did not cheer. He simply closed his eyes for one quiet moment. Pride does not always shout.
"Tomorrow will decide,"
he finished, each word deliberate.
"Who will become the galaxy champions."
Pandemonium. Angels cried out, Gabriel among them, wings spread wide. Archangels clashed hands in thunderous applause. Fallen angels laughed and howled from the shadows, thrilled by the promise of chaos. Even Hades himself leaned forward, dark eyes gleaming, a slow smile touching his lips. The Savanians were on their feet, screaming, laughing, hugging one another, unable to believe they were here, unable to believe what they had seen. "This," someone shouted, "is history." The god of the universe raised his hands once more.
"The victors of today,"
he said, and Zyrath, Corvox, Naraka, and the hunter goddess stepped forward.
have earned their rest.
Vorian inclined his head, pride steady and unmistakable. The celestial seat surged with approval, voices rising again in chants of Naraka's name.
Go, heal, prepare. Remember what is at stake.
The arena pulsed, once deep and slow.
Tomorrow,
He said softly, almost to himself.
we crown champions.
The lights dimmed, but no one moved, because tomorrow was already burning in their minds. And when it came, heaven itself would tremble. Happy New Year to you all. I missed you. I missed us. I missed the way we gather here to share our stories and walk the savannah together. I hope you are well. I hope you are rested. And I hope you are stepping into this new year with renewed strength, renewed purpose, and love still alive in your hearts. Thank you for your patience, for waiting, and for every holiday message you sent. I felt them. Truly. They found their way to me, and I carry that gratitude into this new year. Papa Pele, tell us, how was your Christmas? How is the new year? It was good, tribe leader. Quiet, full. The kind of rest that reminds you who you are. And what do you think this year is going to hold for us? I think it will hold everything. Drama and tension, war and loss, love and compassion, moments that will test us, and moments that will remind us why we love the savannah. I think it will be a year that asks much of us and gives much in return. Indeed, I feel the same, Papa Pele. And with that, we open this year with a fight. The next episode will bring the conclusion of the Heavenly Games. After that, we return to our stories, back to the paths we left unfinished, back to the characters we have grown to love, to fear, to argue with, and to cherish. So come with me. Let us open the Savannah 2026. And to my dear inner circle, who would I be without you? Thank you for standing with me last year and for choosing to walk with me into this one. Your support carries these stories further than you know. If you love the Savannah and want to help it grow, consider becoming a member. Join the inner circle. From less than $2 a month, you help keep these stories alive, growing, and becoming more. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of what completes the Savannah. And as always, thank you for watching our story, and we hope you enjoyed it. What lessons did you draw from this story? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of the tribe. Thank you for watching The Tales of the Savannah. We will see you next time in the Savannah.